Hey folks, in this video example we're going to talk about one of my personal favorite features of MetaLocator, and that is called field templates. So as a programmer, I like to be able to have control over the actual HTML that is used to render some of the fields in MetaLocator, and I realize not everybody is going to need that level of control, but when you need it, it's really helpful. And so in this video example, we are going to show you how to access that HTML and some common ways that it's used. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've opened up an interface in the interface builder, and these are called field templates because they let you modify the templates of various fields. And so fields are presented in MetaLocator in the results list that I'm scrolling here. They're also presented in the map pop-up or in the details pane. And so all the fields that we see here, like get directions, phone, website, the details and description, are all of those fields are have off-the-shelf templates that are used to produce their output, and you can modify those, and you can even create your own. So the first thing we're going to do is actually modify a field template to change the HTML that is used to display the phone number field. So in this example, I'm going to expand the list because I'm going to modify this particular phone field. And then I'm going to scroll down to phone, expand the options, and then scroll down to the very end. It'll show me the template that's being used to display the phone field. Now I can just choose whether I want to display it as a regular phone. I can choose to have it display as a linked phone number to call. I can also choose to have it display as a text message phone. But in this case, I'm going to actually modify this display, and this allows me to pick the template that I'm going to start from. And so when I click the pencil icon, that's going to invoke the template editor. And so what you see here is a template markup that is written in both HTML and handlebars. Handlebars is a templating language that we use to control everything that's displayed on the front end. And so now I have the opportunity to actually modify this to make it according to my needs. So I'm starting from the base template, and I could add something like, I could add another field or another heading. I'm just going to add an H6 and just say this is a test. And so that will then, if I can type correctly, will update and include the words "this is a test" at the bottom of the phone field. So now we see each phone field now has "this is a test" at the bottom of the phone field. So the other thing that I want to point out is that the template now shows user phone. That means that it's the user's copy that is my copy of the template. I could switch back if I wanted to and go back to phone, and I could also create a different field template for the same field. Let's say I wasn't happy with user phone, or maybe I was using it for something else and I wanted to make a new user template. I could do that by picking phone again and making yet another copy. So let's go back here, and now let's say I want to make like an H5. This is also a test, and save that. And now I have another template that I can choose from. So let's look at the drop down. We have phone, we have user phone, and user phone 2. I can actually switch between these two, and I can go back and modify this first one, user phone, that I had originally created. So that is how you create multiple versions of templates within these results. And if you don't like one or you want to get rid of one, you can actually edit it and then click delete right here, and that will remove it from the drop-down list, and that won't be available for use anymore. Now that we have a basic understanding of how to create field templates and edit field templates, I want to get into the syntax a little bit more. If I wanted to include fields, for example, like the name field, for example, those are enclosed in these double curly brackets. And so if I add the name field to this phrase that I've added and click save, now I can see that some dynamic behavior is brought in. It says this is a test, and then it outputs the location name. And I'm not going to get too deep into handlebar syntax, but that's the basic flow where you can do things like introduce custom fields. So I'm adding the ID field here. You can add categories. And one of the cooler things is you can actually include conditional logic. So you can say, if this location is a retailer, output a certain behavior. If it's a distributor, do something else, that sort of thing. Handlebars, which is the language that is used in these templates, is very elaborate. It has a ton of options. You can even create custom handlebars helpers that do all sorts of fancy things, and the options are ultimately limitless with respect to updating field templates and creating custom behavior. So the example I've shown so far is how you modify an existing field template, but sometimes there's not an obvious one that you would start from. An important concept in field templates is that regardless of which field template you're working with, every field is available to that template. What does that mean? That means that in the phone template, we can reference the ID field or the email field or the name field. And in the name template, we can reference the ID and so forth. So just because I started by modifying the phone field doesn't mean I can't reference other fields. A great example of that is with our with our text field. So I'm going to go ahead and add another field, and I'm just going to choose a text field. Now, this text field is not actually connected to any particular field in the database. It's simply a blank slate, like an empty template, that you can use to then add a bunch of content or logic in. So let's go into the text field that I just created. By default, it got added to the body container. I'll expand that and go down and I'll modify the template here. The default template is label, which is kind of text speak for just plain text output. And I'll go in here. I could remove all this if I wanted to, which I will. And I can just add fields at my leisure. And I can say things like name has ID, and the email is email, that sort of thing. So you can add additional logic to create these kind of dynamic phrases, which you'll then be able to see if I actually enter that correctly. I might not actually have an email field in this one. Yeah, it looks like I don't have an email field in this particular database. So now you can see sample location 3 is 2267, and that corresponds to this field template. So there's no limits, again, to the kind of HTML that you can include in these. So you can put a bunch of, and you can also include things like conditional logic. So Handlebars has a bunch of helpers that begin with words like if. I could do things like if. I probably won't try to do this offhand, but you can do conditions like, for example, if a location is in a particular category or if it has a field set. There's a bunch of examples in a support article called Field Templates. So if you look at that, you'll see some examples of common uses of conditional logic in field templates. And so, so you have the ability to modify any existing MetaLocator field template. You have the ability to add your own, and then you could even obviously move them around as necessary. You can add multiple field templates, multiple custom templates. So if I have one text template and I want to add another, I can go ahead and do that by just clicking Add Field and adding a custom text template. And that, I think, is a pretty good summary. The last thing I'll say is that it's easy to overuse field templates for everything. MetaLocator has a ton of off-the-shelf functionality. And if you want to benefit from the upgrades and enhancements that we provide to the standard field templates, you should probably stick to those where you can. Of course, this feature was added for a reason and provides good functionality and good benefit for those people that need it. But again, try to stick to the standard fields. But if you are pro and higher and need access to field templates, that's the way to go. Thanks a lot for your time.